70,000 years ago, our species, Homo sapiens, stood on the brink of extinction. The world was locked in an ice age, supervolcanoes were shaking the planet, and humanity's survival hung by a thread. Some scientists believe that at one point, the number of humans may have dropped to just a few thousand individuals, maybe as low as 1,000. Imagine it. All of us, everyone alive today, descended from a tiny group of survivors clinging to existence in an unforgiving world. This is the story of how close we came to vanishing, what nearly destroyed us, and how those few humans not only survived, but built the foundation of the modern world. To understand how close we came to extinction, we first need to picture the world our ancestors lived in. This was the Pleistocene Ice Age, a time of extremes. Vast glaciers towered over North America, Europe, and Asia. Temperatures swung wildly, seasons were brutal, and the animals? They were enormous and deadly. Mammoths trudged across frozen tundras. Saber-toothed cats lurked in the shadows. Packs of dire wolves roamed the steppes. For a human, survival meant facing predators that saw you as dinner, while also finding enough food to keep your family alive. Our species, Homo sapiens, had only just emerged in Africa. We were newcomers to the evolutionary stage. There were other humans around too, Neanderthals in Europe, Denisovans in Asia, and even earlier human species still fading away. We were small, fragile, and untested. But even in this hostile world, humans were spreading. We were explorers by nature, following rivers, coastlines, and game trails into new lands. What we didn't know was that the Ice Age was about to deal us a crushing blow. In what is now Indonesia, a giant lay sleeping, Mount Toba. Around 74,000 years ago, it woke with unimaginable fury. This wasn't just a volcano erupting. This was a supervolcano. When Toba exploded, it blasted more than 2,000 cubic kilometers of rock and ash into the sky. For perspective, that's about 3,000 times larger than the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens. The eruption darkened the skies. Ash spread across continents, raining down on India, covering lakes in Africa, drifting as far as Greenland. Sunlight dimmed, temperatures dropped. Scientists call this a volcanic winter. Plants withered, animals starved, and humans, already living on the edge of survival, found themselves facing a catastrophe unlike anything in their short history. Some researchers believe this eruption was the trigger that pushed humanity into a genetic bottleneck. It wasn't the only factor, but it may have been the spark that nearly snuffed us out. So what exactly do scientists mean by a bottleneck? For tens of thousands of years, humans were spread across Africa and beyond. Then something, or a combination of disasters, forced the number of humans dangerously low, maybe down to only a few thousand breeding individuals. Some studies suggest just over 1,000. In simpler words, we nearly went extinct. That's a razor-thin margin. One bad disease, one unlucky drought, and humanity could have disappeared forever. Yet, those survivors endured. They passed through the bottleneck, carrying with them only a fraction of the genetic diversity our species once had. And from them, from that tiny group, all 8 billion people alive today are descended. Now, you might be wondering, how do we know any of this? It's not like anyone was keeping records 70,000 years ago. The answer lies in our DNA. When scientists study the human genome, they notice something odd. Compared to other species, we're incredibly similar to one another. Chimpanzees, for example, have far more genetic variation than we do, even though there are only a few 100,000 chimps alive today. Why? Because at some point humans went through a drastic reduction in population. Our gene pool was squeezed. Researchers use mitochondrial DNA, passed from mothers to children, and the Y chromosome, passed from fathers to sons, to trace lineages back in time. What they find is that many of our genetic lines converge around 70 to 100,000 years ago, right in the window of the Toba eruption and the Ice Age crises. Archaeology tells a similar story. In parts of Africa and Asia, stone tool traditions vanish for thousands of years, suggesting people either moved, dwindled, or disappeared entirely. The clues come together to paint a stark picture. Humanity once walked the knife's edge of survival. Let's take a moment to imagine what life was like for those who lived through the bottleneck. Your home was not a house but a cave, or a shelter made from wood, bone, and animal skins. Fire wasn't just warmth, it was survival itself. Without it, you froze. Without it, you couldn't cook meat, and you couldn't keep predators at bay. Hunting was dangerous, but necessary. Small bands of humans tracked herds of mammoths, bison or antelope, armed with nothing more than stone-tipped spears. Sometimes, you got the kill. Other times, you became the prey. Saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, and wolves watched from the shadows. Food was never guaranteed. A failed hunt meant hunger. A long winter could wipe out entire groups. Every day was a battle, not just against the cold and the beasts of the Ice Age, but against despair. So how did we make it through when so many species around us did not? The answer wasn't brute strength. It wasn't sharp teeth or thick fur. Our secret weapon was adaptability. Some groups moved to the coasts and rivers, learning to fish, to gather shellfish, and to rely on the sea when the land failed. Others improved their hunting tools and began to cooperate in larger groups, coordinating hunts that no predator could match. And then, there was something else. Something uniquely human. Culture, language, storytelling. Around this time, we see the first signs of symbolic thought. Beads made from shells, pigments used as decoration, and eventually, cave art. These weren't just decorations. They were evidence of humans thinking beyond survival, of humans teaching, remembering, and imagining. This ability to share knowledge across generations, to pass on lessons, warnings, and ideas, gave us a huge advantage. When a group found a new tool, a better hunting strategy, or a safer shelter, they could teach it to others. Knowledge became our inheritance, and that, more than anything, helped us survive. From a near-extinction event 70,000 years ago, humanity has grown to dominate the planet. 8 billion people now walk the Earth, all descended from those fragile survivors who once huddled against the cold. Their resilience gave us a second chance. Their ingenuity lit the path forward, and their will to survive is written into our DNA. When you look around at the modern world, at skyscrapers, airplanes, the internet, even space travel, remember, all of this exists because a few thousand humans refused to give up in the face of impossible odds. And as long as we remember how close we came to the edge, maybe we'll appreciate just how precious survival really is. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like as it really helps me out. I post videos like this weekly, so if you're interested in our ancestors, prehistoric humans, and the Ice Age, then consider subscribing too. And let me know in the comments if you think you could survive the Ice Age.